He doesn't say, I want you to sing the songs of Zion more passionately. That isn't his response. They want to know, what do we need to do to get ourselves back in alignment with you? But interestingly, he responds to them with a command about their money. I'm not making it up. It's right in there. He starts talking about tithing. And in verse 6, he contrasts his own changelessness with the unfaithfulness of their fathers. Look in verse 6. He says, for I'm the Lord, and I don't change. Therefore, you sons of Jacob are not consumed. In other words, you're lucky I'm consistent. Look at it. Because the verse has some implication that go back to the fall. Because it is the fallen nature of man and the fruit of that fall that stands in grave contrast to God's, where the word is immutability, his unchanging. See, the ingrained desire, the proclivity to be in control of our own lives, it just flows through us as a result of the fall. It's just part of our construct. Our human resistance to tithing is just another expression of the fall. See, God has promised to sustain us and to provide for us. However, as in the beginning, it's just difficult for man to give God his portion. The story in Genesis, first chapter, it reveals that before the fall, when he created Adam and Eve, and he put them in the garden, God made Eden. And he made them on the outside, and then brought them on the inside of Eden, and said, I'm giving you all this. You can have all of this. I want you to enjoy all of it except for this one, this right here. And what he was doing is that he had given them stewardship over all of creation. Because he said, no, you're just not going to lay around and stuff. I want you to dress it. I want you to keep it up and everything. And you can enjoy all of what I'm providing for you. You won't want for anything except for this one tree right here. That's mine. You can have all the rest. You know, it's like this room. Y'all can sit anywhere. Don't sit there. Don't sit there. You can sit there. Sit anywhere else you like. But don't sit there. And that's what God said. You can have all of this, but don't bother that. It was a mandate from the Creator. They were charged to honor the portion of creation that was absolutely his, and his being God and God's alone. Now, it wasn't just a matter of prohibition. It's deeper than that. It's what I call recognized rights. And by the term recognized rights, I mean that man needed to understand and accept the small portion of what God had put within their reach belonging solely to him. Everything else they could use. Everything else they could have for themselves. But that designated portion belonged to God. He said, use it all. Everything is yours except that right there is mine and mine alone. And that principle still applies to us because it's a principle. It's a principle before the law. See, we get it twisted when people say, well, tithing is under the law. No, they're not biblical scholars. They don't even go to Sunday school. Anybody says that, don't even go to Sunday school. I'm not talking about seminarians. I'm talking about they don't even go to Sunday school. Because before there was a law, there was a tithe. Abraham tithed, there was no law. Jacob tithed, there was no law. And so we have to understand the principle. The principle is that God owns everything. He sets the standard. And in this Genesis creation narrative, he says, you can have all of it, but recognize rights. That part right there belongs to me. In Leviticus 27 and 30, it says, a tithe of everything from the land, whether grain from the soil, fruit from the trees, it all belongs, a tenth of it belongs to the Lord. It's whole, the tithe is holy to the Lord. So what the tempter, the devil, said to the couple, he still whispers today. He said, God, he told them, he said, well, you know, he started talking to the woman, y'all know the story, and he said, well, you know, really he knows that if you get hold of that, then you're gonna be so much better off. Oh yeah, he giving you this, but if you get that right there, you're gonna be better. Ooh, you're gonna really be, you're gonna be straight if you get that. And that's what he tells us. He tells you you're going to be better off. But he's telling you you're going to be better off, that you're going to be like God. That's what he don't want you to be like him. But they forgot they were already created in his image. So it was not power they needed. They had his promise of provision, so they did not need his position. But when they took God's portion, they subsequently lost what they thought they would gain. And when we take that tithe, when we take that part that belongs to the Lord and then administer it on our own, we lose what we have as well. The divine claim on 10% of our income and our surrender of it in worship is where we find life's financial starting place and the beginning place of blessings in Christ. Somebody was asking this preacher one time, he said, how many of your members tithe? And he said, all of them. He said, all of them? How do you get all of them to tithe? He said, well, some of them bring them. The rest of them, God gets it other ways, but they're going to tithe. And like an architect, you know, God has a plan. He has a blueprint for our lives. He's laid out a pattern for us to conform to so that we can develop in mind and spirit and likeness, and then blessings and benefits. And all of it's for our good. For our good and for his glory. Now, the initial pattern for godliness that was laid out for Adam included direction on how we should relate to the portion that belongs to God. So the Bible outlines how we should relate to our money by recognizing and releasing the tithe to the Lord. That's how it is. 2 R's. The Bible teaches this is how you should relate to your money. You should have a recognition of a portion of it. You should give it to the work of God and then release that portion. And he's a giver. See, God's a giver, and he wants to make us giving people. If we're going to be like him, we got to learn how to give. And he creates this opportunity for us for him to make us like him. There is an undeniable link between our obedience to giving and our potential growth in living. But this whole issue of recognized rights of God and God's portion, it became a serious matter because the prophet asked the question, and it wasn't rhetorical. He just said, will a man rob God? Should people cheat God? There's an indictment here. The indictment is that Israel is robbing God, which was Israel. They were robbing God, which was contrary to other people of other religions. What are you talking about? Even the most backward, even the most pagan tribes of the world of yesterday and even today, they do not disregard nor disrespect their deity. They approach their deity. I don't care if it's stone, I don't care if it's a stone, if it's a piece of wood, if it's some carving, they come to that deity with their best offerings. And so that really gives the force behind the question in the A section of verse 8. Will a man rob God? Will you rob God? Even the pagans will give their deities, however false they are, they give them their best. And will you rob God? They had robbed their master. They were embezzling their master's goods. Man who depends upon God and derives his all from him, will he rob his benefactor? You know what we say, how you going to bite the hand